My community-based issue was the disparity in resources for people with mental disabilities. To do something about that, I partnered with Gigi's Playhouse, which is a center for people with Down syndrome that is completely free, and it helps families from prenatal diagnosis to death. This issue is super important, especially in Florida, where 12.6% of people suffer from some form of mental disability, which is slightly higher than the national average. And we also only spend an average of $36 per person on mental health here in Florida, according to the CDC and News Press. Okay, so whenever I discuss Gigi's to somebody who doesn't really know anything about Gigi's, there's a quote I like to bring up from the founder, Nancy Gianni, that she told me when she just happened to pop into my volunteer orientation. And it was, when the doctors first diagnosed Gigi with Down syndrome, they were mortified. They kept apologizing as if this was a death sentence. That was when I decided to start Gigi's Playhouse. This was one of the reasons I wanted to partner with them, aside from them being the organization not to ghost me. One of Gigi's main goal is to change public opinion about Down syndrome, as well as to educate the public so that they know Down syndrome isn't terrible. It's hard, but not impossible. What I originally set out to do was a multifaceted project where I tutored people, did a social media campaign that rapidly hit a roadblock because the tutoring sessions had already started and they weren't going to accept new people till late December, early January. And the social media campaign was an idea to meet project requirements, not something that I actually wanted to do. Anyways, my next idea was to make use of a service they had called Gigi's at Home, which was started in response to the pandemic that we all know and love. I came up with the idea of doing a walk-in homework help program on Gigi's at Home. Unfortunately, my idea didn't meet the requirements for Gigi's at Home, so that was out. And then finally, Pam Garrett, the program coordinator, suggested that I make educational games for tutors. This was something that Pam was trying to get started for a while, but unfortunately, she's rather technologically challenged and was having a difficult time with it. Fortunately, I had experience in picture and video editing and stuff, so I was able to take to it fairly quickly. When my project took its final form, my goals were to make at least one game a week, and through the use of a survey, see if the tutors thought that they were helpful and if they were getting more useful and improving. Now, unfortunately, none of the tutors filled out either the control survey or the secondary survey. So, aside from making a bunch of games, no idea if my project was a success or failure. In my project, I associated, served, and gave. Growing up, I had a learning disability, so I really identified with the people at Gigi's. I served with them games, and I gave them a whole lot of my time, for 40 hours worth. Though I didn't do any leading in this project, the reading I associated with my project the most was The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. The reason for this was the child that they locked in a broom closet that was covered in its own shit. Now, the child that was chosen had a mental disability. It's unclear whether this was a developmental disability because they weren't cared for properly, or just something that they were born with. But it was the throwing away of a mentally disabled person that made me associate it with my project. The normal societal perception of people with Down syndrome was that they were just a waste, just like the kid in the closet. But they're not. The most obvious thing I learned from this project was how to use lesson pics. I also improved my understanding of Down syndrome and how it is perceived. I also learned some furniture construction, but that was only loosely related to the project. Each group member expanded their knowledge of the issue with first-hand interactions with the people being affected by it or trying to help it. My project impacted my community partner by helping them to get this idea off the ground and into practice. If people should learn one thing from my project, it's that people with Down syndrome aren't a waste of space. They can still function in everyday society. They just need a bit more help.